Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Plotlines. I'm your host, Connor. And if you're paying attention to the news lately, there was a continuing resolution, basically spending bill that was proposed in the House, and it was basically seemed like it was going to go through. It was on the right track. Basically, it had the Speaker of the House's endorsement, and it has been torpedoed. And it has been torpedoed for a very simple reason: Elon Musk and his pull. And we're gonna get into that and break that down. But if you're interested in supporting the channel, please go to my Substack. Please subscribe, and if you're feeling generous, please sign up for a paid membership there. And I will be having more articles coming onto that platform very soon. But yes, Elon Musk is more or less the leading member of the new elite that has, I mean, that has more or less taken power in the US political system at the moment. Now, it's not that Elon Musk wasn't a member of the elite. He was, but he had been a Democrat. He had been a member of sort of the opposing elite. And it's crazy because when somebody necessarily joins the sort of Republicans, they don't usually necessarily leave the elite. At least that's not from our perspective. Usually they will continue to lobby for the same things. So the idea that Elon Musk is actually trying to sabotage or did sabotage a bill like this, which was very, basically intended to give, I believe, representatives raises and stuff like that. Basically just sort of throwing people uh, red meat in order to get them to uh, make the government continue to function. Now, of course, this not means that the government's going to shut down because of this, but of course that means essential workers are still working. So it's not like when they say the government shut down, it doesn't mean the government's not actually continuing to work. It just means that the government doesn't have the frivolous people working for them. And many question, okay, why, if the government shut down, why does the government even have workers that aren't necessary? Isn't the government's purpose to do necessary work? Of course, that's not really the purpose of government. The purpose of government is more or less funneling money to necessary, or not necessary, or important places to secure power. So in order, like certain charities that are really not charities, that are just um, propaganda tools, more or less. But Elon Musk has moved over to this other side, and it's not really clear how different these sides are. I mean, Elon Musk isn't a crazy right winger, and I don't mean crazy in like a mean way. I mean just he wouldn't be considered crazy right winger if people were actually looking at it objectively. Now, the reason he'll be called a crazy right winger is just because anyone to the right of Hillary Clinton is a crazy right winger. I mean, I think so. Donald Trump and so basically what happened was Elon Musk took to Twitter, or X, and basically said this is unacceptable. Him and Vivek Ramaswamy did this together, and it seems like this is kind of their way of approaching Doge, the government cutting organization that Trump is putting together. That's kind of outside the government. But Elon and Vivek seem to come on this attack, first. Not really with Trump. Trump took a while to actually provide statements, saying that he no longer supported or wasn't supporting this continuing resolution that to fund the government. And Elon basically threatened to have the Republican senator or Republican representatives or senators basically have them primaried if they were going to vote for a terrible bill like this. Now everyone's now saying, okay, it's President Elon, he's now in control. Now, I do think Trump is going to be much more powerful with a backer like Elon Musk. He's sort of putting this group together. Trump is kind of the face man. He has decent instincts from time to time, but and Elon Musk, maybe it's isn't necessarily ideological, though he is against sort of the woke. He's because how it destroyed one of his kids, which is a extreme tragedy. Um, but it's so he has this vendetta, and it seems like Elon is dedicated to basically clean up the government in 4 years, more or less. Or he doesn't seem like he wants to be involved in politics for very long, but he's really taken sort of uh, a headlong head he's taken a plunge into into sort of politics in a decisive manner, and he's seemingly not going to let up until he succeeds. I mean, unless he gets thrown out or jailed or something like that. It seems like he's even looking to start funding uh, the was it the Reform Party in the UK, which I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not sure that's going to be the best, because I think the UK parties are pretty much um, almost all garbage. It's pretty bad in the UK at the moment, um, and all they seem to be talking about right now is sandwiches. So that's something. I think it's almost like the British politics have sort of followed the route of American politics, becoming more and more insane. You'd think that they would sort of hold themselves higher, because that's sort of how Americans view the British, is that they have more I don't know, they have more class than we do, but politics has basically become the same in the UK, more or less, than that it has been in America. But Elon Musk is this sort of new elite that sort of proves, or part of this new elite, driving force, I should say, part of this new elite. And I think this shows that new elites can manifest, can come about, can take over. Now, a lot of people are going to say that this elite isn't really much of a difference, really not, it's not going to change things drastically. I mean, the thing that it might do, it might actually cut government down. That would be pretty great, but it's not some right wing real change that will probably fix a lot of the institutions. The institutions will just continually getting more left wing over time, um, but this is sort of proof that a real change is possible. And before I continue, let's just I have a break to tell you, take a break to tell you about an interesting offer you you could have for listening to this show. If you are looking for a way to express your Catholic faith through fashion, look no further than ProselyTies. ProselyTies is a Catholic-owned tie company that sells beautiful and well-made ties. ProselyTies is offering Plotlines listeners 10% off if you use the code Plotlines. That's PLOTLINES. Plotlines. Use the link in the description to get your next tie. Now back to the show. Yeah, so Elon is really showing that it's possible to change the elite. And I mean, Elon is a multi-billionaire. Was or is the richest man in the world. He has a great amount of pull, and because he bought Twitter, or and has turned it into a place where I guess more right wingers have, or more, I guess it's not even right wingers, people outside the normal political uh expected opinion can share their opinions and drive conversation. And Elon has used that as a way of uh creating support, or creating um the 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 sort of the show of support as if, this is a popular movement. And I think what his strategy seems to be is make it seem like it's a very popular move, and then it's inevitable, which is a very had been the sort of the strategy of many left wingers previously, is to make, sort of gay marriage or abortion or civil rights or any number of these sort of policies, that they're inevitable, and that if you stand up against them, you will be taken down. Elon's trying to sort of create that feel on Twitter. And of course, it's not really a movement of the people. I mean, the people have a part in it, but the driving force behind it is Elon. And he is going to make the biggest difference, I would say, by pushing this. Now, it's really just his interests. So don't necessarily think that he is entirely altruistic. He's not. I mean, at least he sort of has a better view of the masses and his sub and the sort of the citizens of the United States, and their maybe interests more line up with his interests. But he is also just another form of oligarchy. It's funny. I think Bernie Sanders tweeted out something about how, like, Elon Musk is now controlling the government or controlling Trump or whatever, something like that, and that this is oligarchy. This was an agreed upon bill, and that this was going to come about, and now Elon Musk has thrown it in the garbage, and this is what oligarchy looks like. Well, here's the thing: we've been living in an oligarchy for ever, basically, of my whole lifetime, my parents' whole lifetime, my grandparents' whole lifetime, pretty much. We've been living in an oligarchy that masquerades itself as a democracy. And of course, democracy is a fiction. All democracies are oligarchies. The only alternative is basically an aristocracy or a monarchy. Those are the sort of two possibilities, though aristocracies also can often turn into oligarchies as well. But really, a monarchy is the most distinct because it's obvious that it's one person ruling, like, sort of you could imagine a CEO running a company, but instead of a monarch, who hopefully, this would be the caveat, would be that he would believe that it was his God-given duty to take care of his people, and that he would have that responsibility. And then if anything went wrong, it would be on his soul, and that his descendants would be in worse off situation if he were to rule improperly, if he were to rule cruelly. But we've always lived in an oligarchy. It's funny watching Democrats being like, "Oh, this is oligarchical and or dictatorial or something like that." When this is how it's always been functioning. It's just we don't like it when it's not our guys, basically, or at least perceived not our guys, or somebody who has dissented from our opinions on one or two things. Because that's the thing, is Elon Musk has not dissented on liberalism or, sort of probably social democracy that much. He is just dissenting on the fact that they tried to destroy him and are lying to us, and fomented sort of these false narratives, and driven us into insane views that are destroying our society. And this is something destroying our society with ideas that throughout all of history, pretty much nobody has, or the majority have always rejected, such as transgenderism and, basically basically the destruction of womanhood, and the attempt, and yet trying to destroy man through destroying woman. This whole thing is interconnected. But yeah, this is possible. The new elite is Elon, Vivek, Trump, these guys, and then the Zuckerberg and Bezos are all sort of recognizing that they're living in a different world, and that's what a lot of different places are looking at it. Like the $15 million paid to Trump by Disney for George Stephanopoulos's attacks on him and lies about him. This is just this wouldn't have happened 4 years ago or 6 years ago or what have you, 8 years ago. There's a real change in the political system, and I think we need to be aware of that and act accordingly and recognize that, you know, even though Elon's not, my guy or anything like that, I don't think he's any of our, or sort of an example for us to necessarily look to, except for the fact that we should look to him as an example of how people can change the system dramatically, how the elite can change things almost on a dime. He changed, and then he changed the system. I mean, it's a perfect example of elite theory working. Now, are things changing but really staying the same? I mean, that's kind of the question, and that's what we'll be looking for in the near future. Like if everyone just kind of moves over to Trump, then he's really the establishment, and he's really a representative of a different oligarchy, and maybe a kinder oligarchy, but the interests haven't changed. The people that we're talking about, Zuckerberg, Bezos, and other members of the oligarchy, the members that we don't see necessarily, if they move over to Trump, then uh, they're just going to also get Trump to do the same stuff. It will be interesting to see if Trump ends wars, if Trump really fulfills on his promises, if he stops illegal immigration, stuff like that. If he starts deporting people, if he really is not stopped, then there's something to that. But it's it's not going to change broadly. Like, we're still going to be living in a very liberal nation, and the oligarchy that we'll be living under is just a liberal one that sort of is being a little bit more benevolent, I guess you could say, a little more mindful of the people, realigning themselves with the attitudes of the people for the elite's good, not for our good necessarily. They don't really care about that. It's for their good. Their success sometimes, not always, is dependent on the willingness of the populace to go along with that. The populace can't single-handedly change things. They require an elite to change things for them. But if the populace can make things difficult for the elite, for the oligarchy, if we want to. And that's kind of what's happened with sort of the latest years, is that we have made it difficult for them. Their narratives, their media propaganda has basically failed them, and they're looking for alternatives. And the only options basically are Trump. I mean, Trump's the only option for them. So that is where the new elite move towards, and we'll see if that can be actually sustainable and meaningful. I mean, it's not great, as I said, for you know, traditional Catholics or anything like that, or reactionaries or anything like that. That's not going to be the group that succeeds. Maybe we'll get something. RFK Jr. has promised to Josh Hawley that he'll be reinstating the Trump pro-life laws that Biden took away. So I guess that's something. I mean, I think people were very concerned about the taking away of the pro-life issue from the Republican platform, but I don't think that intrinsically changed uh, the overall attitude of the new Trump administration. I don't think they're just going to be magically less pro-life because they took that off um, their their platform. I think I think the whole premise was more just be more tactful with addressing the issue, especially with the overturn of Roe v. Wade, which Roe v. Wade was the primary national issue when it comes to abortion. So that was wiped away. Trump wants to move it to the states, and he's not. and that's not his main crusade. So, which makes sense. He's a '90s, liberal turned conservative. I mean, he became he joined the Republican Party in the '90s, which is interesting when the Democrats became a lot less populous and um, more corporate stooges, basically. So that's it. Elon uh, is 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 being sort of recognized as sort of the driving force, and JD Vance and Trump sort of came along afterwards, and it's interesting to see if Speaker Johnson will be able to sort of sustain himself, if they'll get rid of him and replace him with someone more in line with some Elon Musk and Donald Trump and JD Vance, because Mike Johnson really isn't that. So thank you everyone for listening. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Check out my Substack. Check out ProselyTies. Um, and God bless everyone. Bye.